Welcome to Armchair Archaeology, where we unravel history's greatest mysteries. Today, we're diving into one of the most perplexing events in ancient history, the Bronze Age collapse. Around 1200 BCE, multiple advanced civilizations suddenly crumbled, leaving behind ruins and questions that still baffle experts today. What force could have been so catastrophic that it brought down the Mycenaeans, Hittites, and even shook mighty Egypt to its core? Was it invasion, climate change, or something even more sinister? Join us as we piece together the clues left behind by this ancient apocalypse. And stick around until the end, where we'll reveal a startling connection between this ancient collapse and our modern world that might just keep you up at night. Prepare to journey back to the twilight of the Bronze Age, where empires fall and mysteries rise. Before we delve into the collapse, let's paint a picture of the world on the brink of catastrophe. The Late Bronze Age, spanning from approximately 1600 to 1200 BCE, was a time of unprecedented prosperity and interconnectedness in the Eastern Mediterranean and Near East. Mighty empires ruled vast territories. The Mycenaeans dominated Greece and the Aegean. The Hittites controlled much of Anatolia and northern Syria. Egypt, under the New Kingdom, was at the height of its power. In Mesopotamia, the Assyrians and Babylonians vied for supremacy. These weren't isolated kingdoms, but part of a complex, interconnected world. International trade flourished like never before. Elaborate palace economies managed the flow of goods. Copper from Cyprus, tin from Afghanistan, gold from Egypt, and amber from the Baltic crisscrossed the known world. Luxury items like spices, precious stones, and fine textiles were highly sought after by elites. This was also an age of great cultural exchange. A common diplomatic language, Akkadian, was used for international correspondence. The famous Amarna letters reveal a network of alliances, rivalries, and diplomatic marriages between great powers. Art and architecture showed clear signs of cross-cultural influence. Technological advancements abounded. Bronze, an alloy of copper and tin, was the wonder material of the age, used for everything from weapons to tools to decorative items. Sophisticated shipbuilding techniques allowed for long-distance sea trade and naval warfare. It seemed like a golden age that would last forever. But as we'll see, this complex system was far more fragile than anyone realized. The threads holding it together were about to unravel in spectacular fashion. One of the most enigmatic elements of the Bronze Age collapse is the sudden appearance of a group known as the Sea Peoples. These mysterious marauders burst onto the scene around 1200 BCE, leaving destruction in their wake and forever changing the political landscape of the Mediterranean. Our primary source for the Sea Peoples comes from Egyptian records, particularly those of Ramesses III. The pharaoh's mortuary temple at Medinet Habu depicts epic naval and land battles against these invaders. The reliefs show distinctive headgear and weapons, marking the Sea Peoples as foreign to Egypt. But who were they? The Egyptians provide us with names like Peliset, Cheka, Shekelesh, Denayan, and Weshesh. Some scholars associate the Peliset with the biblical Philistines, who appeared in Canaan around this time. Others have attempted to link these groups to regions around the Mediterranean, but their exact origins remain a subject of fierce debate. What we do know is the scale of their impact. They're credited with destroying the Hittite Empire, sacking cities along the Levantine coast, and pushing Egypt to the brink. Their attacks seem to have been more than mere raiding. In many cases, they apparently settled in the lands they conquered. However, it's crucial to note that the Sea Peoples weren't necessarily the cause of the Bronze Age collapse, but rather a symptom or catalyst. Some scholars suggest they might have been displaced peoples themselves, forced to migrate by the same factors, causing wider instability. The mystery of the Sea Peoples continues to captivate archaeologists and historians. Were they a single unified force or a loose coalition of different groups? Were they opportunistic raiders taking advantage of weakening empires, or desperate refugees seeking new homes? As we'll see, Their appearance was just one thread in the complex tapestry of the Bronze Age collapse. While invaders from the sea were wreaking havoc, an even more insidious enemy was attacking from within: climate change. Recent studies have revealed that the Late Bronze Age coincided with a period of significant climate instability, which may have played a crucial role in the collapse of these ancient civilizations. Paleoclimatic data, derived from sources like tree rings, ice cores, and ocean sediments, indicate that the Eastern Mediterranean experienced a series of severe droughts beginning around 1200 BCE. This extended dry period, lasting up to 300 years in some regions, would have had devastating effects on agricultural societies. In a world where the vast majority of the population were farmers and where complex palace economies relied on agricultural surplus, successive crop failures could spell disaster. Famine would have led to social unrest, weakening the power of centralized authorities. It might also have spurred mass migrations, possibly even contributing to the movements of the Sea Peoples. The effects of this climate shift weren't uniform across the region. Some areas, like parts of Syria and Cyprus, seem to have been hit particularly hard. Archaeological evidence from these regions shows signs of abandonment and collapse earlier than in other areas. Interestingly, this wasn't just a local phenomenon. Studies suggest that this period saw disruptions to global climate patterns, possibly due to changes in ocean circulation or solar activity. Similar climate anomalies have been detected as far away as China during this period. It's important to note that climate change alone didn't cause the Bronze Age collapse. Rather, it likely exacerbated existing tensions and weaknesses in these societies. As we'll see, the complex, interconnected nature of the late Bronze Age world meant that stress in one area could quickly cascade into a system-wide failure. As if climate change and invasions weren't enough, the late Bronze Age world was also on the cusp of a major technological revolution: the advent of iron. This shift from bronze to iron as the primary metal for tools and weapons had far-reaching consequences that contributed to the collapse. Bronze, an alloy of copper and tin, had been the foundation of advanced metallurgy for nearly 2 millennia. Its production required a complex trade network. Copper was relatively common, but tin was rare and often had to be transported long distances. This system worked well in the interconnected world of the late Bronze Age, but it was vulnerable to disruption. Iron, by contrast, was far more widely available. While iron ore is common, the challenge lay in reaching the high temperatures needed to smelt it effectively. Once this technique was mastered, it revolutionized tool and weapon making. Initially, iron wasn't necessarily superior to bronze. Early iron was often softer and less durable. However, it was cheaper and easier to produce locally, reducing reliance on long-distance trade. As ironworking techniques improved, particularly with the development of steel, iron tools and weapons became demonstrably superior. This technological shift had profound socio-economic impacts. The complex trade networks that had enriched and connected Bronze Age civilizations became less crucial. Smaller political entities could now arm themselves without relying on centralized bronze production. This may have contributed to the fragmentation of larger states and empires. Moreover, the shift to iron weaponry may have changed the nature of warfare, potentially giving an advantage to groups like the Sea Peoples who adopted the new technology early. The irony is that while iron technology would eventually lead to new advancements, in the short term, it likely contributed to the unraveling of the established Bronze Age order. While external pressures mounted, many Bronze Age civilizations were also facing significant internal strife. Archaeological and textual evidence suggests that social unrest and political instability played a crucial role in the collapse. The late Bronze Age was characterized by highly centralized palace economies. These systems concentrated wealth and power in the hands of a small elite, creating stark social inequalities. As resources became scarcer due to climate change and disrupted trade, these inequalities likely became even more pronounced, fueling resentment among the general population. Evidence of this unrest can be seen in the archaeological record. Many palace complexes and elite structures show signs of violent destruction. In some cases, such as at Mycenae, there are indications that the local population played a role in this destruction, suggesting internal revolt rather than external invasion. Textual evidence also hints at growing instability. Hittite records mention grain shipments to alleviate famine, suggesting food shortages were a significant concern. Egyptian texts from the period increasingly mention social disorder and enemies from within. The complex bureaucracies of these palace economies may have also contributed to their downfall. These systems, while effective in times of plenty, may have been too rigid to adapt to rapidly changing circumstances. As resources dwindled, maintaining these elaborate administrative structures likely became increasingly untenable. Furthermore, succession disputes and internal power struggles seem to have plagued several of these civilizations in their final years. The Hittite Empire, for instance, shows signs of increasing political fragmentation in the lead-up to its collapse. It's a stark reminder that even the most sophisticated civilizations can be vulnerable to internal decay. The social and political structures that had once been a source of strength became liabilities in the face of mounting challenges. As we'll see next, once this internal cohesion began to crumble, the entire interconnected system of the Bronze Age world was at risk. One of the defining features of the Late Bronze Age was its intricate network of trade and diplomatic relations. Ironically, this interconnectedness, once a source of strength and prosperity, became a critical vulnerability during the collapse. As we've discussed, the Bronze Age economy relied heavily on long-distance trade. Tin, essential for bronze production, often traveled thousands of miles from its sources to manufacturing centers. Luxury goods like lapis lazuli from Afghanistan or amber from the Baltic crisscrossed the Mediterranean and Near East. This trade wasn't just about goods, it facilitated the exchange of ideas, technologies, and cultural practices. However, this system was predicated on political stability and safe trade routes. As civilizations began to falter under the pressures we've explored, this delicate network started to unravel. Sea trade became increasingly risky due to piracy and the activities of the sea peoples. Land routes were disrupted by local conflicts and population movements. The breakdown of trade had a cascading effect. Without reliable access to vital resources like tin, bronze production faltered. This, in turn, would have affected everything from weapons production to agricultural tools, further weakening struggling economies. Moreover, the interruption of trade meant a significant loss of wealth for palaces and temples, which often controlled and taxed this commerce. This would have further eroded their power and ability to maintain complex societal structures. As larger states weakened, smaller political entities that had relied on them for protection or economic support also faltered. The entire system began to collapse like a row of dominoes, each falling civilization further destabilizing its neighbors. This domino effect transformed the political landscape of the Eastern Mediterranean and Near East, ushering in a period of fragmentation and decline known as the Greek Dark Ages. As the dust settled on the Bronze Age collapse, a new era emerged, particularly well documented in Greece, the Greek Dark Ages. This period, lasting roughly from 1200 to 800 BCE, marked a significant regression in many aspects of civilization. The most immediate and visible impact was demographic. Population levels plummeted across the region. Major urban centers were abandoned or shrank dramatically. For instance, Mycenae, once a powerful city-state, was reduced to a small village. Similar patterns can be seen across Greece and the wider Mediterranean. Technologically, there was a marked decline. The art of writing was largely lost in Greece. Lineabe, the script used to write Mycenaean Greek, disappeared entirely. It would be centuries before the Greeks adopted a new writing system based on the Phoenician alphabet. Economically, the complex palace systems collapsed. Long-distance trade dwindled to a trickle. Sophisticated crafts like fine metalworking and fresco painting virtually disappeared. The economy reverted to a more basic subsistence level. Politically, the region fragmented into small, often isolated communities. The grand palaces and citadels of the Mycenaean age were replaced by simpler dwellings. There's little evidence of centralized authority or complex social hierarchies during this period. However, it's crucial to note that the Dark Ages weren't uniformly dark across all regions or in all aspects. Some areas, like Athens, show continuity of settlement. The period also saw innovations, particularly in ironworking technology. Moreover, this era laid the groundwork for the later flowering of Greek civilization. The weakening of centralized authority may have allowed for the development of new social and political structures, eventually leading to the rise of the Greek city-states. The Greek Dark Ages serve as a powerful reminder of the fragility of civilization and the profound impact that collapse can have on human societies. The story of the Bronze Age collapse isn't just found in ancient texts. It's written in the very earth itself. Archaeological evidence provides crucial insights into this turbulent period, offering tangible proof of the dramatic changes that swept across the eastern Mediterranean. One of the most striking pieces of evidence is the destruction layers found at numerous sites. Cities like Ugarit in Syria, Hattusa in Turkey, and Mycenae in Greece all show signs of violent destruction around 1200 BCE. These layers often contain burnt debris, arrowheads, and unburied bodies, suggesting sudden and catastrophic ends to these once great cities. Changes in settlement patterns also tell a compelling story. Many lowland cities were abandoned in favor of smaller, more defensible sites in the highlands. In Greece, there's a clear shift from the large palace complexes of the Mycenaean period to smaller, simpler dwellings. Material culture provides further clues. There's a notable decline in the quality and quantity of goods produced. Fine pottery becomes rarer, replaced by simpler, less decorated wares. Luxury items that were once traded across the Mediterranean become scarce in the archaeological record. Evidence of widespread migration can be seen in the appearance of new pottery styles and burial practices in various regions. For instance, the sudden prevalence of cremation burials in parts of the Levant has been linked to the arrival of new groups, possibly including the Sea Peoples. Climate change has left its mark as well. Paleoclimatic data from tree rings, ice cores, and lake sediments all point to a period of prolonged drought. This aligns with evidence of crop failures and famine found in the archaeological record. Intriguingly, recent archaeological work has also revealed evidence of resilience and continuity in some areas. Sites like Pyla Kokkinokrimos in Cyprus show attempts to adapt to the changing circumstances, offering a more nuanced view of the collapse. As archaeologists continue to unearth new evidence, our understanding of this pivotal period in human history continues to evolve, providing ever more detailed insights into the complex tapestry of the Bronze Age collapse. As we've journeyed through the twilight of the Bronze Age, we've uncovered a complex tapestry of interconnected causes that led to one of history's most profound collapses, from climate change and technological disruption to social unrest and systems collapse. The fall of these ancient civilizations was not due to a single catastrophic event, but a perfect storm of cascading failures. But what does this 3,000-year-old catastrophe have to do with us today? Here's the startling connection I promised. Many of the factors that contributed to the Bronze Age collapse have modern parallels. We too face climate change, technological disruptions, social inequalities, and highly interconnected global systems. The ancient world's struggle with these forces offers both warnings and lessons for our own time. However, it's crucial to remember that collapse isn't inevitable. Unlike our Bronze Age ancestors, we have the benefit of scientific understanding and historical perspective. We can see the challenges coming and have the potential to adapt. The story of the Bronze Age collapse is not just a tale of destruction, but also one of resilience and renewal. Out of this period of darkness emerged new societies, technologies, and ideas that would shape the classical world and beyond. It's a powerful reminder of humanity's capacity for both vulnerability and adaptability. As we face our own global challenges, let the echoes of the Bronze Age remind us of the fragility of civilization, the consequences of inaction, and the imperative of cooperation and innovation in the face of existential threats. The lessons of history are clear. It's up to us to heed them. Thank you for embarking on this captivating journey through the mysteries of the Bronze Age collapse. If you found this exploration enriching, we invite you to support our channel, Armchair Archaeology, by giving this video a thumbs up and subscribing for more fascinating dives into ancient history. Don't forget to activate the notification bell to stay updated on our upcoming adventures through time. We're eager to hear your thoughts. What other ancient collapses or civilizations would you like us to investigate next? Share your suggestions in the comments below. Until our next historical expedition, keep exploring, keep questioning, and remember, the past is always closer than we think.